Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of my Pokemon review series. In this episode, we're going over the Ampharos. Now, Ampharos, I think, is one of the most interesting Pokemon in this game. It's got the snoozing sleep type, as is pretty typical for electric type Pokemon. And it's got the skills specialty. Now, when it comes to the skills specialty, you often have to consider a big collection of things when you think about how strong it's going to be. And this one has the Charge Strength M main skill. And ultimately, it's got that 4.7% skill trigger rate with a 41-minute speed. Now that's pretty fast for Pokemon in this game. It is, when you think of like 46 minutes and 40 seconds, is like pretty much the standard speed, I'd say, in this game. You see that speed on a lot of Pokemon, so this guy is like 5 minutes faster than those Pokemon. That is a pretty significant boost. And it's got a pretty high skill proc rate as well for a very powerful skill once you get it up to skill level 7. One thing to note with this skill is that it scales exponentially, so the difference between level 1 and level 2 is less significant than the difference between level 2 and level 3. As you can see it gains about 400 strength, then about 500 strength, then about 600 strength, and then about 900 almost. So it just gets more valuable the more skill seeds you put into this. So if you're gonna run Charge Strength M Pokemon overall, and this matters for Espeon as well as does Golduck, and if you run the Sudowoodo, you really do want it to be that skill level 7, just because like it's exponential in the value it goes up. And I'm sure that'll continue to be the case once they bring out, if they ever bring out skill levels 8 and beyond. There's no guarantees on that yet, but there's been some speculation. But as of right now, we don't know if that will ever be a thing. But one real big thing that holds the Ampharos back, with a speed this high, if you intend to run this thing overnight, it doesn't really take that long before its inventory fills up. Because it's only got an inventory of 15. I kind of think of the 17 as kind of like the average almost for inventory. But that kind of varies from mon to mon based off their speed. And having this high of a speed, having a 15 inventory is actually pretty low. Now, fortunately, it is a 3-stage Pokemon, which means that it does get 10 extra inventory from evolution. You really should not be catching this thing as Flaffy or as an Ampharos. A lot of people will say you shouldn't do that because of the skill level, but I honestly think that it's bigger because that it loses that inventory just because the Ampharos struggles with inventory as it is. Because as you can see here, when I evaluate these Pokemon side by side, now I personally set up to sleep from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. It's about when I run my sleep sessions from, because I like to get a little extra lenience in there to make sure I'm reaching that 8.5 hour mark. I don't want there to be any BS with like how long it takes before it starts tracking, and yeah. So I sleep for about 9 hours. And with a 9-hour sleep session in there, you can see that it decreases, that Ampharos is going to be sneaky snacking for so long. And because it has lower inventory, it has less of a chance of you waking up to a proc or a double proc, comparative to the Sudowoodo, who, if I go into here, you'll see he has a higher base inventory of 16. However, the Sudowoodo has less inventory, or less overnight proc issues, just because even though his inventory is actually lower after evolution, he's got a higher base skill trigger rate, so, and a lower speed. So the Sudowoodo's got less inventory issues than the Ampharos does overall, and because of that, right here, the only reason why the Ampharos is losing to the Sudowoodo is because of the inventory problem. And you can see that even if I just give them one inventory subskill, it's not even close. In fact, the Sudowoodo actually drops beneath the Espeon. So the Ampharos really is your best option, but it just struggles with inventory a little bit. And if you sleep with it enough, then it eventually overcomes that anyway, because the good sleep ribbon alone. So you don't even need to have it in the sub skills. You just gotta sleep with it enough. But until that point, it may be kind of rough, because you'll be missing out on skill procs every morning, most likely. So, it's just kind of interesting that it runs into that problem. It wasn't a problem prior to the skill banking update, but now that the skill banking update came around, it just is more conducive for this kind of spread for overnight. So, those are kind of some of the things to consider when looking at the Ampharos. Now, it's got an ingredient rate of 13%. That is horrendously low, which I actually almost kind of wish that was higher on the Ampharos, because it's got a pretty nice ingredient list. It has access to eggs, which is a high value commodity right now in the meta. So having that low of an ingredient rate just means that it's hardly ever going to be collecting ingredients, which means its ingredient list doesn't really matter all that much. But I'll still discuss it a little bit. It's got herbs and eggs. It's an AB. It doesn't have a C ingredient. And even though herbs and eggs don't really have any synergy anywhere, both of them are just good ingredients. Like, herbs are used in a lot of the top tier meals, like the corn keema curry, the tail curry, the tail salad. I think overheat ginger salad's a pretty good meal as well, kind of slept on by a lot of the community. And eggs, I mean, eggs are in the flour gift macarons, they're in the fruity flan. They're great for dessert weeks, but a lot of people struggle to have a good egg farmer because Delibird and Snover are such a hard hunt, honestly, and they only exist really at Snowdrop, and because of that, like, not very many people have a really good egg farmer, so being able to just get eggs on any little thing is kind of good right now in the meta. So, now, like, it is subject to possibly change eventually if they added more egg farmers, but as of right now, the strongest, this is probably permanent, but the strongest ingredient list is having just that double egg on the Ampharos. Actually, no, it is not. Man, it's having the eggs as the B ingredient, and then the last one being the herbs. That's the strongest ingredient list you can get on the Ampharos. So, yeah, that's pretty much all there is to be said about this sheared electric sheep. One very interesting thing about it is that it exists at Snowdrop. I wouldn't be surprised if this also existed at the Old Gold Power Plant, which is soon to release. The Flaffy is at Snowdrop and Greengrass, and the Mareep, I believe, is also at Snowdrop and Greengrass. Yes, it is. So, if you want to hunt this thing, best place is Snowdrop, because Greengrass is great for catching a lot of things. Like, almost everything is there, but that's the problem, is everything is there, so it kind of waters down the pool. So if you want to hunt the Ampharos specifically, you want to go to Snowdrop Tundra, and you really only want to catch it as a Mareep. It evolves at level 11 to Flaffy, which is a pretty early evolution for Mid-Evo, and it evolves into Ampharos at level 23, which is also a pretty early evolution as well for a 3-stage. So if we compare that to the starters evolve at level 27 into their full form, so that's 4 levels earlier. You don't even have your second sub-skill by that point, so this dude can be very powerful early on as well, because if you just have the skill seeds to put into it, let's say you catch a Mareep right away, early in the game with skill level up M, like right away, just that golden sub-skill's right there. If you get that thing to level 23, evolve it twice, then it's going to start with a level 5 main skill. Even on a free-to-play account, yeah, you should prioritize your energy for everyone healer first and foremost. But if you somehow come across a decent amount of skill seeds, main skill seeds, it's not necessarily the worst idea if you have a good skill level up one that has, like, maybe some also skill trigger sub-skills. If early game you get that and you just put 2 more main skill seeds into it, then that gets you to that skill level 7, which, because of how this exponentially increases, the difference between level 1 and level 2 is significantly less than the difference between level 6 and level 7. This thing can easily kick out a lot of power really early on and at every single island. It's not going to be the best at any particular island because it doesn't really have that berry synergy. It's only going to be producing 1 berry, so at islands where you have a berry finding S favored berry specialist, it's going to be outproduced in terms of just raw strength by that berry specialist. But the nice thing about these guys, any of them with this charge strength and skill, is that they just kind of work everywhere. They're not the best at any island in particular, but they're good everywhere. And that means you can take them with you every week and always extract strength, so long as you don't have a stronger berry finding team for whatever island you're at. So that's pretty much everything to be said about the Ampharos. I like its design. I think it's a pretty interesting Pokemon, and it's fun to talk about the idea of a generalist Pokemon, because that's not really... it doesn't really fit the meta of this game, but I think for an early game option, it's just tremendously powerful to be able to go to a new island that you haven't prepped for and have at least one really strong option. And that's true about the Ampharos. That's also true about the Golduck. That's true about the Espeon, and to some extent, but not as great, the Sudowoodo. But I hope you learned something here. I hope you've enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and I thank you.